is no way you can guarantee booking the job. Does everyone understand this?
Yep.
You got to get this like in your DNA so that you don't go to yourself, well, if I just do this, I'll book it. And then you get crazy eyes. You know, when you read, you're like, I'm going to book this. I'm going to find a way, right? The minute you do that, you're back into results. If you go, it's not about booking it, let me create the character, let me create the life, then you're going to be in the story. And more than likely, you will be memorable, which is really what the job is, to be remembered. There are casting directors, if you do good work meaning I told the story and I had transitions in that story, there was a conflict that participated in that story, there was behavior, and there was some physical manifestation of the character's life and some intimacy that got sent. That's what good work is. They will put you in a very unique pile and on a very unique list. If you get in there and do things right, know your lines right, but don't tell a story, can be one note, flat, don't really take a risk, you go in a good list. Not something that they have to have you in. Do you get me? And if you're sitting there making superheroes out of nurses and doctors, you go into the crazy, I'm never going to bring them back in list. And that pile is in a bin. Do you know what I mean? Now they put that pile in a folder because of the way the self-tapes work. Now this is not to say that you don't get to take a risk, but you get to take a risk in connection to story,
Amen.
in connection to what's on the page, not in connection to what you feel you need to do to be the actor that you want to be, right? And this is where a lot of people get confused. Well, you know, I was told to, Susan told me to take a risk. Susan said, yeah, I didn't tell you to take that risk. You didn't have to get half naked in the middle of the audition. You know what I mean? Like, that was a risk you took, because you needed to get naked, you know, for whatever reasons you have. But you guys got to remember, it all starts with how I read something and the details that come from that. And I always tell people, if you can be a creative investigator on the details in a script and have a commitment to creative investigation, that requires your intellect and your imagination to lock together. That when you read something that somebody, that your character says, and you see them say it to this person, and that has a thing inside you that goes, oh, that reminds you of something, that clarifies something else for you. That is where you can start the investigation, right? How and when and why somebody says, I love you, or I hate you, or go fuck yourself, or I need you, is very significant. It can't just be looked over. Because once you look it over, you're missing elements of the story, which is missing elements of detail, which leads you to not discovering anything. And there are scripts that I've read to answer your point with people. They go, how do I do this? I'm like, because I'm reading it. Right? They're looking at it. And this is the real trick. Your character is not there for you to define. Your character is there for you to see. Not to define, but to see. And if you take that leveled approach, then your imagination and creativity are required very early on in the development of your technique. They are required very early on in the development of your technique. Because you want to be able to take some words and make them into an interesting element of their personality, the character's humanity, their sense of history, their sense of what they experienced 2 seconds ago, their sense of what they want, their intention, their dreams, all can come from 2 to 3 lines. So again, there are no small parts. There are no small characters, because there are no insignificant human beings in the world. Every human being matters. And this, to me, if you get that level of clarity, then maybe you can really make a difference in this world. If you commit to something that specific, that everyone is important, everyone has an effect, everyone has impact in you and on your life and on your world. And God forbid, hopefully that inspires you to vote. Please vote. good God, I tell people all the time, vote. Because then if you don't vote, you can't complain. You know what I mean? And even if you voted, then you can really complain about this asshole in office, right? But again, all because you took the opportunity to read it. And great writing, even Mein Kampf has this element in it, that every human being matters, whether they're an enemy or whether they're in allegiance with. Do you get me? That's how significant and detailed, when you read something, it should lead you to. Okay? So first and foremost, read the script. What am I going to say after you read the script?
Read it again.
No. Who said that? Why did you say that?
Well, like you said with Anthony Hopkins, I feel like the more you read it, the more you discover things.
Sometimes, for some people. What's the danger of that if you feel like you have to?
Get stuck in a cycle.
Yeah. Oh, I read it. Okay. Now I'm going to read it again. Okay. Now I've read it. Now I still don't feel any clearer. I'm going to read it again. And now I'm wasting time doing what?
Reading it.
Reading it.
Instead of creating character. Depends on your technique. If your technique leads you to, there's something still unclear, keep reading, right? I'd say for every audition, right, if it's 2 pages, you want to give yourself 6 hours. 6 hours of preparation, clarity, da-da-da-da-da. If it's 4 pages, you want to give yourself 8 hours. And if you don't have any of that time, you go crazy. Do you know what I mean? You give yourself the opportunity to read it as quickly as possible, invest in it as much as possible, but you cannot neglect creating, which is the second step, creation, right? So after we read, we get to create. And what are we creating?
Biography.
Well, don't think that even complicated. What are we first creating?
Backstory.
Well, don't even think that complicated.
Character.
Yeah, simply a character.
For 200.
Absolutely. We're first simply creating a character. And you can start wherever your brain starts. If your brain starts with the physical, start with the physical. If your brain starts with what that character is wearing, see what that character is wearing. If your brain starts with their repression, what they're denying, how they're lying to themselves, what they're hiding, what's getting in their head, start there. Let your brain lead you. Instead of telling your brain, you're wrong, brain, you're wrong. Right? The minute you try to whip your brain into shape, your brain will whip you back in really horrible ways. Right? It will confuse you. It will tell you, you don't know what I know. Right? And then you start to get in competition with your intellect. Again, I've seen this, right? You start reading something and go, well, this was what I thought, but I can't be. But I thought it, but that's wrong. It's not right. It's right. And you start to get into this whole internal debate about one choice from the script that you didn't let you go and really think about. You had to analyze, and this goes to what CJ was talking about. That's where it gets problematic. I'm sitting there in debate over one choice, even though my gut, my imagination saw this. My brain said no, right? My brain said that's not right. And the minute I hear right, I have to go, I'm in connection to what? Results. So therefore, I get to go with my gut. And it's a get to, not a have to. It's an opportunity in pursuit of the art form. Because in this art, 2 plus 2 does not necessarily equal 4. It equals 575,622. If I want it to. Do you get me? That's how far you can take it. So you gotta go, if I'm reading something and I have an instinctual hit, a guttural hit about what this could lead me to, let me follow that through. And let me investigate and discover something about who this person is. Okay?